When it comes to video game universes, there are only very few that are as extensive as the one of the Elder Scrolls franchise. With literally hundreds of books for you to read, notes to scavenge, NPCs to talk to, and places to explore, there is definitely no shortage of lore to be discussed and interesting things to be uncovered. And while you probably wouldn't believe to what extremity some people have gone to uncover the mysterious and very interesting lore of the Elder Scrolls, in today's episode I'm gonna focus on something a lot more familiar. In fact, I'm going to be talking about the Dragonborn, which, if you've played the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, you would know is also the main protagonist. Now, just a quick disclaimer before this video starts, I'm getting most of this information from my experience with the game, online forums, and the wiki, and because of that, there is a pretty solid chance that I could be wrong in something, because I'm only human. So if there's anything that I forget or anything that you have more information on, please don't hesitate to leave that down in the comments. I am always interested to learn, and I think other people who are watching these types of videos probably are too. So with that in mind, take your sword, get that fireball spell in your right hand, and let's go. Now, to start us off, I did say that the Dragonborn is your main protagonist of Skyrim, but it's not actually the Dragonborn, it's more of a Dragonborn. See, the Dragonborn isn't exclusive to the protagonist of Skyrim. The Dragonborn is simply a title given to an individual who is born with the blood and soul of a dragon. Remember that, it's going to be important later. Now, if you've played the game for any amount of time, chances are someone or something, I guess if a dragon is a thing, has called you Dovahkiin, which is in dragon language the word for Dragonborn. Now, an interesting fact here is, depending on whether you split the word into Dova and Kin or Dov, and Kin, it can mean two different things, because Dova would translate to dragon and Kin would be born or of the same blood, which would literally be Dragonborn. But if you simply went with Dov, then and Kin, it would technically mean the Dragon Kin Hunterborn, because can refer to a hunter. Now, it is not exactly clear which one of these is the proper one to be used. However, something to definitely take note of here is that when the Greybeards call you at the start of the game, they very clearly pronounce it as three different syllables, as Dov, and Kin. So that probably fits better, and you being the Dragon Kin Hunterborn also fits with the abilities of the Dragonborn, which, getting right into them, consists of the skill that they solely possess, which is to be able to absorb dragon souls after defeating said dragon, and a quick mastery of the Thu'um, the language in which dragons speak that can be used to conjure and master powerful spells. But before we get into that, I said that the Dragonborn is not exclusive to the main protagonist, and that is very true. What is also true is that Dragonborn are very rare. In fact, it is unknown whether there can be two Dragonborns living at the same time, and even if you ask the Greybeards about this, they will simply tell you that you are the only Dragonborn that has so far been revealed, and it is unknown whether there is someone with similar capabilities alive at the same time. Also, as an interesting fact, the Dragonborn abilities, or I suppose the blood, can exist in any race or gender, as dragons, which I'm guessing the powers stem from, don't have any concept of gender, and the way an individual back in the day would have come to acquire this power would be if they were favored by Akatosh. Now, Akatosh, also known as the Dragon God of Time, is one of the chief deities amongst the divines, and he is supposed to represent endurance, invincibility, and everlasting legitimacy, which makes sense if you think about dragons, as they themselves pretty much don't age and they also can't die from starvation or thirst. So this would fit pretty well, but unfortunately the Dragonborn does not possess similar abilities, as they can succumb to normal human issues such as disease, old age, or being killed in battle. As I already mentioned, the thing that really makes the Dragonborn unique is their soul. They are said to possess the soul of a dragon, and if they defeat another dragon, a real dragon in combat, they're able to absorb their soul and effectively their life power and their knowledge towards the conjuration of spells, which I call Thu'um, which for dragons are simply a regular speaking language, but for humans they sometimes refer to it as shouting. Now, because we're talking about soul so much, you might be wondering, what does actually happen to the Dragonborn soul after an individual with this power dies? which one of the deities claims it, and this is currently unknown. I will give you a little bit more information about this towards the end of the video, but for now it isn't known whether one of the deities has more of a right for your soul, I suppose, after death than the others, or whether you simply go to Sovngarde. But what is definitely known is that during their lifetime, Dragonborn are usually people of immense power and immense responsibility. However, there is a solid chance that an individual could probably go their entire life without realizing they have this power. Hence the somewhat humorous line some of the guards might say in Skyrim at some points, "Who knows, maybe I'm the Dragonborn and I just don't know it yet." Now, as I already mentioned, the Dragonborn from The Elder Scrolls V isn't the exclusive Dragonborn. In fact, we know of quite a few others, but there are only a few that are really notable, so I want to discuss them now. Miraak, the enemy from the Dragonborn DLC, is in fact rumored to be the first Dragonborn to have ever lived, personally being a former dragon priest who dates back all the way to the Merethic era. Now, following him, we know the power was probably transmitted to Alessia, the slave queen of Cyrodiil, somewhere during the first era, and then Rayman Cyrodiil, the famed ruler who took part of the Akaviri invasion during the first era. Then of course Tiber Septim, the legendary ruler and general who managed to unite the entirety of Tamriel during the second era, and then pretty much the entirety of the Septim bloodline, with some notable names such as Martin Septim, who you could have encountered during Oblivion. Now, an interesting thing of note here is that even though the Dragonborn of Elder Scrolls V isn't special for being the Dragonborn, he or she is special for technically being the last Dragonborn, and the one tasked with fulfilling the prophecy about Alduin and the end of the world. Now, originally, the gift was bestowed upon humans to be able to combat dragons, so I suppose it makes sense that once the real reason for them, Alduin, the original one, is defeated, humans would no longer need this gift. And that's not to say that a regular human cannot use the Thuum. It just takes a lot longer for them to be able to learn and acquire these abilities. Whereas for the Dragonborn, it comes completely naturally. Now, the final thing I want to bring up here, and it is something that a lot of the community seems to be somewhat divided about. I even asked some people on Reddit, because everyone knows that's the most reliable source of information. But we are not exactly sure whether the gift of the Dragonborn is transmitted purely through blood, or if there is other ways to acquire this gift. Because if it were transmitted only by blood, it would make sense that the Septim bloodline all own this gift, but then it would also make it possible for the bloodline to simply die out. So technically speaking, you could simply have a point at which the next Dragonborn just doesn't have any children and the gift is lost. Also, our Dragonborn being the last one would then probably presume that they never ended up having children of their own. Now, if it were transmitted only by the soul, since you possess both the soul and the blood of a dragon, then I guess it wouldn't really make sense why a bloodline would all have this gift. I mean, I suppose it would have to depend on the individual and would have nothing to do with their family's heritage. However, it would explain how you can end up being an Argonian, for example, who possesses the Dragonborn gift, and it doesn't have to mean that all the Dragonborns are inevitably linked by the blood. Anyways, I was not able to find a concrete and specific answer on this, whether it is only the blood, only the soul, or if it's a combination of both. But if you have any more information on this, please leave it down in the comments below. I'd be very much interested to read that. Now finally, just to end this video off, I did say that it is unknown which one of the deities essentially claims our Dragonborns from the Elder Scrolls V's soul. However, during the Dragonborn expansion, it is suggested by Hermaeus Mora, the Daedric Prince, who is also a center of the plot of that DLC, that the last Dragonborn might in fact end up in Apocrypha, Hermaeus Mora's realm, after the events of the expansion inevitably, saying, "If you tire of your search, read your book again to return to your mortal life. For a time, the lore of Apocrypha will call you back, it is your fate." This would, I suppose, technically make sense, that the Dragonborn simply lives on in Apocrypha, as that is something that Miraak has done, and after defeating Miraak, the Daedric Prince actually says, "No matter, I have found a new Dragonborn to serve me," where you effectively and officially become his champion, But once again, we don't have any confirmation of this, so it is all just a theory. Anyways, I want to thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like, commenting, or subscribing. If there's anything I left out, make sure to leave it down in the comments below. I wish you all a bit of a rest off today, and I'm gonna see you all in whatever next video I make. Bye bye.